This episode of Grilled is sponsored by Rationale, your leading provider in multifunctional hot food preparation equipment. Register now for a free Rationale live demo at www.rationale-online.com.
Thanks for listening to Grilled by the Staff Canteen. If you enjoy this episode, you can listen to the rest of this series and Series 1. Just look for us where you normally get your podcasts, or follow us on SoundCloud. In this episode, we will be talking about BAME In Hospitality. My guests are founder of BAME In Hospitality, Lorraine Copes, and chef James Cochran, who owns 1251 and has become one of the new mentors who Lorraine has brought on board. So thank you both for joining me.
Thank you very much.
And so just before we get started, Lorraine, let me find out a bit more about you. So tell me a bit about yourself and a bit about your background.
Sure. So I've worked within the hospitality sector for 18 years in total. Never within the operation, in procurement and leadership roles. So I've worked for Shake Shack. I was a part of the team that brought them to the UK. I've worked in the pub sector, contract catering, and most recently I was procurement director at the Gordon Ramsay Group for almost 3 years, and I'm now currently head of procurement at Corbin & King.
Okay, brilliant. And was that what you always wanted to do? Because I always ask chefs if they always wanted to be a chef. So
when I went to university, I didn't know procurement existed. So I did a degree in logistics, got a first job in logistics in the pub sector, was bored to tears, worked really closely with buyers and thought that looks a lot more interesting, and then moved into buying from there. So buying is a field that is definitely not talked about either at college or university. So I was fortunate enough to discover it in the world of work, which was fantastic.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I suppose I should ask you then, James, did you always want to be a chef? Did you always know you were going to be a chef?
Yeah, I kind of knew from my early ages, from probably like 8 years old, wanted to be a chef. I think because both of my parents come from working backgrounds, they really strive to push education onto me and my brother. And my dad from an early age, was because they kind of put us into, they sent us to a nunnery. That's really weird. I don't know why. They sent us to nunnery and then really kind of push education onto us. Wanted me and my brother to be something better and maybe be a lawyer or barrister or something like that. And I used to cook a lot with my mum when I was younger, like some holidays, because the old school kind of tradition, like dad goes out and work, mum stays at home. So I used to do a lot of baking with my mum. And my mum was like saying, there's no pressure for you really to kind of like make a decision. And I knew from age 8 years old I wanted to be a chef.
Amazing.
And kind of really started from there. And originally from a little seaside town called Whitstable in Kent, and I worked at a place called Wheeler's Oyster Bar, and then kind of just progressed a little bit up the ladder, working in a place in Kent called Reed's. Then came to London thinking that I was the dog's bollocks, but I got put into place pretty quickly. I went to Livery and still have nightmares from it. And then yeah.
It's pretty amazing though, I think, when I meep people that have known from being like a kid that they want to do that, this is what I want to do, because I it took me a long time before I still don't even know if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I enjoy it, so
yeah, I've just been winging it for the last 15 years.
Really? Knowing from 8 is amazing.
Yeah,
I was kind of like jealous with all my mates, because I think like in some ways university kind of makes you in some kind of ways, and it makes you to who you are, because you kind of leave school and then you kind of gone there. So I was really kind of jealous and envy of them going to uni and kind of missing out on that. But I think in some ways as you kind of get older, you look back at it, and my friends say that like you're really kind of lucky to know what you wanted to do, and you've not really kind of stopped in that. And,
I think the chef lifestyle is very similar to a student one anyway, James. So I don't think you really missed out on that much, to be fair. Apart from the work, but the drinking and the going out, I think is pretty much the same. So
it's just been a complete blur for the last. I'm joking.
So I've got a question for both of you as well before we go into the main topic. Is so you just need to fill in the blank. So in 2020, I was going to, but coronavirus put a stop to that. So.
Do you want to go first, Lorraine, or do you want to go first?
So I was on a mission. So at the beginning of the year, I joined Ep34. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's an Australian franchise. It's a HIIT gym. So nothing but high intensity interval training. I joined that gym, was absolutely loving it. Was on a mission to like lose a stone. And instead I've maybe put on a stone. So That's me.
Okay, so coronavirus stopped you. Oh, are you going back now though? Are you able to go back now?
But you were able to, but it's quite a small gym, and you kind of rotate stations. So there's a lot of touching, and so I haven't gone back. I'm just continuing to walk.
Okay.
I'm not doing a great deal, so.
And what about you, James? In 2020, I was going to blank, but coronavirus put a stop to that.
I mean, I had plans to go away a lot more purely because I've been working so much at the restaurant. But I'm going to be frankly honest with you guys. It's a shit situation for the hospitality and for the UK and for the world of what coronavirus has happened. But for 1251 as a business as a whole, we were busy here most days. Probably Monday, Tuesday, really quiet, but our overheads were so high. So we were on the cusp of like trying to maybe move restaurant or looking at downsize, just because the overheads were so high. And COVID in some ways has helped quite a bit because we had a rent break and we weren't paying any staff, and then we started around the clock 2 days later and managed to bring a lot of income in. That's now allowed us to do a whole refurb and a whole restaurant.
Brilliant.
And I'll be honest again, it's been a kind of a plus side in a few things, just because I think throughout my whole life I've just been working so crazy. It's kind of made me kind of reflect that I don't want to kind of go back to working them long hours. I want to kind of build that model around 1251 where everyone has a life outside of work and no one comes to work to feel stressed. I think the most important thing I've realised is happiness. And I've had a lot of stress throughout my whole life with previous things. So that's all I can really kind of say on it. It's kind of been a bit of a positive thing, kind of me reflecting life a bit.
That's
even
good,
even though it's been crap for everyone else. Yeah. And
that's good to hear. And obviously, before we started talking, you said that you're back open with 1251 now. So, and just tell us about that you're busy, so it's good.
Yeah. So we kind of came up with a new concept around the clock. It was just because I think I had so many kind of reviews around my Jamaican jet butternut chicken. And it was kind of an easy gateway for me to get into delivery because I wasn't really going to be happy doing 1251 food and trying to like put that through delivery. So we closed on a Tuesday, open on a Thursday around the clock. And if you know Upper Street, there's probably like over 100 different like eateries, coffees, bars. All of them are closed apart from 3. And it's densely populated around here, residential. So we kind of started that and it went really well. And then here's the thing, you don't really get much job satisfaction frying chicken. So we kind of did, I tell you, mate, yeah. Eating fried chicken and Negroni, so I've put a lot of weight over this COVID situation. So I'm quite happy to get back to what I love. And we did really well on that. And with the whole kind of the government, with the massive unemployment between 18 and 24s, we decided we wanted to franchise around the clock because we don't have equity and it's not really a good time to be investing in a restaurant and you don't know what's going to happen in the next few months. So we thought, okay, like this is not for us to benefit and make money out of it. So we approached like pubs all over the UK who would like, say, my name, maybe to go on there if they're struggling a bit and put the fried chicken there. But also as well, the unemployment between 18 to 24, look at trying to get them back into unemployment because the government are going to help them. So we wanted to set that up before we went back to 1251. And we've just opened, trying to think. We opened last week. Okay. And it's been great. I think the Eat Out to Help Out's been amazing. Plus just the local support from the local residents around here have always kind of loved the food here. It's nice to kind of come back and see what we're doing now. And we've changed the concept a bit because, like I said to you guys earlier about putting so much stress, so much pressure and strain on the kitchen when I used to have like 6 snacks, 3 garden, 3 land, 3 sea. Now all we do is just 5-course tasting menu. And that is it. 5-course tasting menu, 35 quid, change the menu every month, just normal menu and a vegetarian menu, and that's it. And it means that it's just manageable. It means that because what I do is I change the menu so often, it's hard to kind of know your GP. And it makes it more functional for the front of house, for the kitchen, my sanity, my business partner's sanity. So I'm happy where we are now.
Good, that's good to hear. And clearly you're not busy at all. So you've also dedicated your time to helping Lorraine as well. So
Yes, exactly. Yeah, of course.
make yourself a little bit more busy.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, I talk too much. So yeah, just
no,
cut me out.
it's fine. So I just say that kind of nicely leads on to, so Lorraine, let's talk about in BAME in Hospitality. Why did you found BAME in Hospitality?
Sure. Well, you know, as I've mentioned, I've worked within the hospitality sector for 18 years, and within every sort of pocket of hospitality as well. So I've had quite a broader than most insight into businesses and their operations, most importantly, diversity. And what's consistently been the case throughout my career is that diversity often seems reserved to certain pockets of the sector, which are usually junior back of house or junior head office roles. So that is also compounded by lack of visibility, because there are superstars, role models within the sector, from Black, Asian, or other minority ethnic backgrounds, but they're nowhere to be seen. And I use the example of, I grew up in the era of Rusty Lee. I don't know if you remember Rusty Lee in the 80s. So she was a Black British Jamaican chef. She was on television. She opened a restaurant in Birmingham. And since that time, so that was like 30 years ago, I can probably count on one hand how many other Black women I have seen on television talking about food since that time. So it was really around lack of visibility and lack of representation at all levels. And I wanted to put myself in the situation where we build a team to try and address the problem that we kind of view.
Yeah. Okay. And so for those who don't know, what exactly does it do, and who is it for? Like, who can be a part of it?
So our purpose or our mission is basically to drive education, it's to build community, it's to amplify voices, and it's also to accelerate racial equality.
Mm-hmm.
And we do that through 3 pillars. The first pillar is we forge relationships with businesses and individuals who also want to drive equality within their businesses. And I suppose our USP, or our unique selling point, or what makes us different to a lot of the businesses that currently exist, is our starting point is data and insights, because there are a lot of companies out there that are trying to redress balance without really understanding the experience of the individuals that fall into that very broad category of BAME. You know, I have colleagues and friends that are of Asian background and they are in hospitality, and whilst there's commonality in our experiences, there are stark differences as well. And I don't think they're truly understood at the moment. So we're going to be undertaking, in partnership with another company, a piece of work which gives true insight into the experience, and that information can then be used by our partners to better create inclusion and belonging, and then diversity. So that's the first sort of pillar of the business. The second is around learning and development. And the lead initiative for learning and development is currently our Elevate mentorship scheme. But our intention is to be able to offer coaching, training, sponsored learning in any way, shape or form, really, to ultimately level the playing field. And last but not least, the third and final pillar is around events. And our events around amplifying voices and actually providing education and understanding sector-wide. And the first of our main events will be running actually throughout the month of September. And it's called The Colour of Wine. And it's providing a platform for Black and Asian wine professionals throughout the supply chain to talk about their experiences, perspectives, and they'll also be pairing wines with foods from their heritage. And that's an example of an event that, as I say, we've pulled together in partnership with WSET and NITIMBA to give visibility to previously unheard voices. But we will do a series and an array of different types of events, touching on some of the challenges faced, but also actually just to educate a wider audience on the diversity that's been lacking and how we can change.
Okay, brilliant. I mean, it's very detailed. You've got very much got a plan and a mission in place, right? So you know exactly where you're going.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're very serious about not only the size of the problem, but the approach to really resolve the issue that we have at hand. And in terms of who it's for, we describe our community as not only Black, Asian, and minority ethnic professionals within the sector at all levels. Our community is also made up of business that is willing to get on the bus and the journey to accelerate racial equality.
Okay, brilliant. And James, when did you first hear about BAME in Hospitality, and like what did you think about it, and what was it what you expected, and I suppose it's the second question, is it what the industry needs and why?
I think it was quite interesting because I'd done this, the whole Black Lives Matter movement happened, and then I had a couple interviews from a couple of the media, and they were like to me, like, how many Black people, how many Black chefs have you worked throughout your whole career in London? And I was like, I can't even name one.
Wow.
Throughout my whole of my career. And I was like, then it talks about like ethnic minorities that are in our sector. There's no real kind of, if you look really into our sector, Black, Asian, the minority, they're mainly the kitchen porters in our kitchens throughout. And I thought at that present moment that it's important for me to kind of stand up and be proud and voice about our industry, saying that there's a massive lack of Black, Asian people in our industry. And Lorraine got in touch with me and asked if I wanted to be involved in this in any kind of way. And it's something that I want to see a massive change in it. And I have a few ideas in my mind of a direction of where I would like to go with it. And yeah.
Okay. So do you, and obviously you kind of touched on points there, but is it something that the industry is aware of, do you think, at all? Like, we talk about all other problems maybe problems not the right word, but all other issues that we have in the industry that need addressing and changing. Do you think that this is something that's maybe not at the top of the pile where it should be?
100%. I think it needs to be spoken about throughout the whole hospitality sector. I don't think people do realise it. I'm going to be frank honest with you, I had this conversation, can't remember who it was with, and they spoke to me about how could you change the hospitality sector and what could you do. And I was like, it's funny because if you look at the kitchen porter sector, they don't get treated equal to the chefs, do they? I mean, you don't know this, but they don't. They're kind of like the skivvies in there. And I was like, these people who've come from a third world country, for example, come here to get a job and to find a better life for their family, and all they come in really is to become a kitchen porter. And there needs to be something in that sector, if it's a program that can build them further up the ladder to eventually become a chef and have more trained skills. Or to any person, if it comes from an estate or just a minority ethnic background, that we need to kind of put something into play to build them up the ladder and have a structure and have a movement.
Yeah.
Because throughout my whole career, it's shit to say, but they are the skivvies of the kitchen, and no one's done anything about it throughout it all.
Yeah. And I know, Lorraine, you said that about there is like a real lack of diversity in like the positions that people are in, so like of influence within hospitality. So
and that's the thing to note, really. So when you look at the numbers, there are approximately 18 or just short of 18% of individuals within the sector identify as non-white. Yeah, so that's way ahead of the percentage of non-white UK population. Yet when I became a manager over 10 years ago, I had no peers that were of colour. As I've progressed, senior, director, head of, no peers of colour. And so what there is a bottleneck in a nutshell. And, you know, just kind of adding to James's comment about the sector being aware, I guess what's been interesting, especially for a Black woman, is that during the month of June, we saw an awakening of the world. We saw both in the UK, America, globally, everyone talking about race and equality. Now, for me as a Black woman that's born in the UK, has lived in the UK always as a minority, this is new news to any of us, but people have now realised, and there's been, I describe it often as an awakening because it's not a new problem. but there's been an open and willingness to listen in a way that has never ever happened in my lifetime.
Yeah, great.
On the planet.
Yeah. Which obviously is fantastic, and hopefully will help what you're trying to do as well. So talk to me about obviously the mentorship and what you're hoping people like James can bring to your foundation.
Yeah, I think that, conversations happening is a first step, and I think the proof is in the pudding and in the action ultimately. So I think myself, anyone that is kind of championing change, we're sitting waiting for that change to happen through action and through those that have been very vocal about change, because this has been a deep-rooted and a very long problem that's existed. So in answer to your question, the 3 pillars of the business remain as they are. Mentorship is just one part of the puzzle. And the reason why I evolved the business model from initially mentorship and networking to include the partnership elements is because James is a role model to many of the chefs at all levels within the community, and being able to access insights from someone that is experienced, mentorship is amazing to help people develop forward. But unless these individuals go and set up their own businesses, they need to be environments that are safe and that allow them to develop based on merit. And so the mentorship, we hope it absolutely grows, and we will measure impact. And for that reason, we're using a cloud-based system, because we're very action oriented and we want to measure change. So in answer to your question into where we want to go with this, we've already been in conversation with a lot of companies about partnerships. We want this to continue to grow. We want it to continuously grow, just so that we can impact more people's lives within the sector. As really simple as that.
Okay. And obviously, James, now you are one of the mentors. Why did you want to do that? And what are you hoping to kind of offer people, and what are you hoping people come to you for?
Good question. So the kind of program that I would like to do, or to start, is to really look at like the kind of the corporate hospitality sectors in our industry, and to work close with Lorraine. I think at looking putting programs into place where it's not just me as the only kind of black chef, but other kind of black chefs help to mentor a program or a system that we get into play to move up the ladder and have some structure and training. And I think the big kind of corporate hospitality sectors maybe look at doing a program to work with other colleges to get, even if it's a 50-year-old African guy who is interested in food, who wants to get involved in it somehow and learn his skills even more and push them up the ladder. I think for me, really is, I was kind of always told, like, if you get knocked down, get yourself back up again and prove and push yourself forward and strive to be better than other people. And I've had obstacles through racial abuse, through working places in London before. And I just want to say to people that, like, you're not on your own, and that we're here as a movement to eradicate that completely from the whole world. But in the hospitality sector, I've dealt with it quite a bit, and I know the kitchens very well, and I know what they're like. And I think at the end of the day, I have nothing to prove to anybody in the day. All I can do is really kind of is nurture and train the younger generation and be there and be there for them.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. And so, having touched on it, I would like to talk to you both about your experience in hospitality and any prejudices that you have come across work-wise. I mean, just because I think a lot of people listening to this may never have experienced those ever. So I would like to know, if you don't mind, if you've got any experiences that you can talk about that can maybe put it into context for people so that they can understand like what you're trying to do.
I mean, just so kind of talk about just like what I've had to deal with in the kitchens, basically. Is that's what you're trying to say?
Yeah, it's just things that, you know, a lot of people would take for granted that would never happen to them. So I'm quite interested in your personal stories.
I would say, Cara, I think from when I kind of came to London to now, I think a lot has changed for the better. I would say that, and I don't think so much it happens now. And I think what Lorraine is saying is like we need to really kind of educate the younger generation a lot more. But when I came to London, Yeah, I would get racially abused daily. I used to go crying every day, and my mum used to say, just like, stick it out, prove yourself, you can be better than them. And actually, I did it, and I did basically, and I didn't really kind of let them get to me, but they used to call me like 4-door saloon coon. Yeah, it was.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. You used to call me 4-door. That's my name, 4-door, basically. Just get fucking abused. And do you know what? I think because I was young. I was only like 21, 22. I was very young. So I was kind of just like, I never really kind of, now I'm like older, and my mum always told me to be proud of where you're from. She always told me that was one thing. I think it was just, it became the norm, and I was just like, I wanted to prove to myself and to my family that I'm better than these guys and rise above it. And over the course of 6 months, I did rise above them, and I was the one laughing at them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I would say, Cara, like, this doesn't happen much anymore, but I had it in that sector, and it was not enjoyable. Yeah, and I'm not gonna say the restaurant, but I guess you know who it is. But yeah.
I guess what's important to know is that, even from the conversations that I've had, everyone is and has experienced it to varying degrees. I personally will not talk about the specifics of what I've encountered, because ultimately it's talking about a trauma, and it's talking about something that's emotionally taxing. And I really do believe as a society, we're beyond the point of trying to scrutinise and understand the ins and outs of what's happening. We know it's happening, and we know it's visible. So let's look at how we fix it.
Yeah, exactly.
To relive really awful memories in their life based on people behaving either overtly or covertly, because the thing is about the main issue and the core issue that we're trying to address is it's very visible, and for some, they're not experiencing someone outwardly saying that you can't, but what they're experiencing is barriers to move forward within their careers.
Yeah, I think we need to kind of forget the past and understand those tools of how we can move forward, and train our generations and our younger generations, for sure, in the hospitality sector. It needs to happen.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I suppose I just kind of, you said as well that you think that it's not like it was, like it is getting better, which is
I think
where we want to go.
Yeah.
We want to keep going forward. Like you said, we don't want to go backwards. So I just kind of wanted to put into context a little bit of what you've experienced. And I suppose for you, Lorraine, I wondered, is that why your personal experiences, maybe not just yours, but people you spoke to, is that what it was that kind of provoked you to found BAME In Hospitality?
Well, no, it was a combination of things. It's a lack of diversity, as I said, in the sector at all levels. Obviously, I think racism, I'll say obviously, as I'll speak to anyone else that's non-white, it's something that we live with day in, day out, not with just going to work. In the British society, it's ingrained within. So wanting to drive change, if I have a daughter who wants to work in hospitality, I want her to be confident that she can go in, work hard, and be recognised and rewarded on merits, quite simply.
Yeah.
And my purpose, one of my life purposes is to help others move forward. And so through understanding the sector from a personal experience of almost 20 years, and also wanting to help people progress, the two just really coincide and go hand in hand in terms of founding BAME In Hospitality, and now starting to really try and deliver the mission.
Yeah. Okay. And do you have goals in mind that you'd like to achieve in your lifetime, the things that you would like to see in terms of change?
Yeah. I mean, my hope is that there'll become a point where this business will no longer need to exist because there's no problem. Quite simply.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Yeah.
because if we are living in a world of equality and it's a level playing field for everyone involved, then I needn't do this anymore, and that's ultimately the game.
Yeah. No. Well, yeah. And James, what about you? Is that any kind of, do you think you'll see complete change in your lifetime or your career as a chef, or not?
I think I've been doing this for so long that I couldn't really see myself doing anything else. But I think working with BAME and working with Lorraine, with anything that I can do to mentor, support, and to make a change is something that's very close to my heart. And like I said, hopefully eradicate this in the whole world will be a struggle, obviously, but I think if people need to kind of start with these kind of small things and small groups and hopefully evolve and move forward.
Yeah. And obviously for people listening, Lorraine, what can people do to help you, to get involved, to help working with, they might have teams that they look after, like different restaurants or organizations. What can people do to kind of follow your message forward or support you guys?
Yeah, I mean, they can get in touch. We're available on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, all the social media mediums, and, as I said about the framework that we adopt to deliver our mission, we are open to discuss, partner with any organisation that is also willing to accelerate racial equality. So just simply get in touch. This is a starting point, really.
Yeah. And so, James, would you like to see more restaurants being aware of this? Because, it's not something, like I said, that is often talked about as much as certain other things that get talked about. So would you like to see more restaurants get on board, or more teams
I would love to see more restaurants get on board, but I would love to see like a mentoring structure throughout kind of the hospitality sector, and a way of getting ethnic minority and diversity up the ladder and progress more, and seeing more black faces as in the front of house in all the hospitality sector. That's really kind of my kind of goal, working with Lorraine, really, to be honest with you.
And Lorraine, I suppose you would like to see as well, is like you said about people of influence within hospitality. I suppose you'd like to see that percentage change.
Yeah, and it should. Don't get me wrong, I really firmly believe you get what you measure. So targets are absolutely essential, but decisions should never be made around it, having a target in mind, because true equality is it's about being fair, right? It absolutely is, and so that is ultimately our hope, that businesses will kind of hold a mirror up to themselves, self-reflect, understand that they need to take change, and take the steps forward. And what I would say is, to date, we officially launched actually on the 1st of June, but to date we've had a lot of amazing businesses and brands reach out and are keen to work with us, because they are too keen on championing and driving change within their businesses. So I think we're optimistic about the future. I think trying to put a timeline on this, I think, would be near impossible.
Yeah.
We're trying to undo 400 or maybe more years of what's been created, and we're definitely not going to do it in my lifetime, I don't believe, but we will make progressive change. And as James said, since he came to London versus where we are now, things have changed. But change is never instantaneous, and it's definitely a marathon.
Yeah. It's about educating the younger generation. I think that's where it's going to change a lot massively. I think if you look at the older generation sector, that may be a bit of a hard one, but we need to kind of educate the younger generation for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And have you had, you said obviously you've had lots of business interested in what you're doing, Lorraine. Have you had many individuals reach out to you and say, like, this is a brilliant idea, like, I'm really glad you're doing this?
I have. We receive, quite a lot of contact daily, to be fair. As a proportion of the sector, obviously we're going through a really tremendously difficult time as a sector. So people are trying to save their businesses, but whilst trying to save their businesses, a number of individuals or business owners that I've spoken with are also trying to build or rebuild businesses to be better and more inclusive than they were before. So far, super positive, but we're at the beginning of the journey. So
yeah, it kind of goes back to a little bit, James, about what you were saying about your experience of like lockdown and everything that happened from that is kind of giving people the opportunity to have a different perspective on the way that they work. Do you think that has allowed them the time to maybe make changes that when you're running at 100 miles an hour, they get pushed to the back of your mind?
I mean, it was the question I got asked the other day, was like, how many other black chefs have worked in the kitchen? It's never even crossed my mind, just because of purely where literally it just, my life has just gone so quickly working in London, being constantly under pressure. And I think with the whole Black Lives Movement, and I think with COVID and reflecting, I think communities have come together through this. I think, I don't know what I'm going to say, basically. I've forgotten. Sorry. I just think throughout, even there's been a lot of negatives that come through COVID, I think a lot of positives have come out through it, 100%. And I think we can only move forward in communities, as a sector, as a country, and as a world. Yeah.
No, definitely. Well, thank you both for talking to me about it, and good luck with everything. Good luck, James. Well, I know you're back open, but heading back to normality, hopefully. So that would be nice.
Yeah. I mean, I'm away for the next 3 weeks, but yeah. All is all well. We should have to take each week as it comes. So we can do, Cara. Really, like, if I had like that. The magic balls to predict the future, then I would know exactly what I'm doing. But you never know what's going to happen next week or the week after. But I just think the two main things is survival and adapting. And we seem to be ticking the boxes so far, so long may that continue.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd really like to speak to you both again in 6 months, a year, to find out about anyone that you've worked with in terms of like the mentorship scheme and what you've built on from this first discussion. I think it would be great to find out where you are in 12 months and hopefully have some really exciting and positive stories to feed back on. So
1,000,000%. I'm all aboard it.
Brilliant.
Sure.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you both so much. I'll let you go. And I'll speak to you both soon.
All right.
Take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this interview, and if you have any comments, feel free to tweet us or comment on the post. We're making all of our interviews available to download. And finally, if you like what we do, whether it's our podcast or our videos or even our features, please head over to our Patreon